Okay, let's get started. And actually, everyone take a lie down on your mats. So just on your back, you can bend your knees if that's comfortable and allow your knees to just relax in toward each other. Oh my gosh, I have so much cat hair on me. Place your hand somewhere on your torso. So maybe one hand on your belly and one on your chest. And take a moment to check in. First, check in with the quantity and quality of your thoughts as you start your practice today. Start from the crown of the head and move your awareness down along your spine and then down your limbs. Without stopping anywhere, noticing any areas of comfort or discomfort. Without judging anything, just noticing how you're coming in. Check in with the breath. Note the rise and fall of the inhale and the exhale. Just pay attention to whether the breath is fast or slow today, deep or shallow. Note the areas of comfort or discomfort. Start to count the lengths of the inhales and the exhales. Noticing whether one is longer than the other. Then start to even those out. So try to aim for about a 4 or 5 second inhale and a 4 or 5 second exhale. Slowing the breath, maybe even extending that inhale and exhale. One more breath or one more second. And then just go ahead and stay lying on your back. But bring your hands to heart center. So palms together, thumbs at your sternum. Call to mind your sankalpa or your intention for class today. It might start with I am. And then let's just all open up class today with a couple of deep inhales and then open mouth exhales. So let's inhale together, nice and deep. And let it out. Inhale. Exhale. Good. All right. Keep your feet on the mat behind your hips and try to bring them a little bit closer to your hips maybe, so you might be able to touch your heels with the very tips of your fingers. Palms are face down alongside your hips. Feet are hip width, toes facing forward. The next time you inhale, lift your hips and at the same time lift your arms so the backs of your hands touch the mat behind you. And then as you exhale, hips come down. Now bring your knees in. The next inhale, lift your arms and lift your feet toward the sky. So almost like a downward facing dog, but on your back. And then exhale your knees in toward your chest. You can just plant your hands next to you. Feet come to the mat. Inhale, bridge pose. Hips come up, arms come up. Exhale, hips come down, arms come down. Knees in toward the chest. Inhale, straight legs, pressing your heels toward the sky. Exhale, knees in toward the chest, arms down. Inhale, bridge. And just keep working with these poses. So you're exhaling, your hips down, knees in, and inhaling into either bridge or downward facing dog. Just keep working with your breath so that one breath corresponds with one movement. Sure, I would bring your feet a little bit wider. Yeah, not too wide, just a little bit. Yeah. Good. And then the next time you're in that bridge pose, stay there. Take your time getting there. Stay there, and you can exhale your hands back to your sides while keeping your hips pressing toward the sky. Press into all four corners of your feet. Can you bring your hips 1 inch closer to the sky? If you like to open your chest up a little bit and it feels good, you can start to walk your elbows toward each other a little bit and clasp your hands underneath your hips. And then release that and exhale 1 vertebra at a time down to the mat. Then we're going to take that L shape. So we're going to press our heels toward the sky. You can just leave your hands by your hips this time. Really focus on pressing those heels nice and firmly. Press through both like the big toe and the pinky toe, almost like you're trying to stand on the ceiling. Allow your hips to be nice and heavy. So your tailbone is pressing into the mat. Good. Bring your left knee in toward your chest, and you can allow your right leg to extend out on the mat. And just squeeze that knee in. Do some circles with that hip. Taking it nice and slow. We're going to take it really slow today. Lots of stuff right on the mat. Go the other way if you haven't already. Okay. Now interlace your fingers behind and on the back of your leg and press your heel back up toward the sky. You can gently use your hands to bring your knee even 1 millimeter closer to your chest. So you're just getting a little bit more of a stretch in that leg. Maybe even walking your hands up, bringing your head and shoulders up, stretching toward that ankle. Keep pressing your right leg down onto the mat. Good. Release everything down. Maybe take a long stretch. And then bring the right knee in toward the chest. I just realized I'm not mirroring you, but it's okay. All right, give it a nice big squeeze first and keep pressing the inner left thigh toward the mat. So not only are you getting a stretch and opening in that right hip, but the left front of the left hip is getting stretched as well. And now work some circles. Go the other direction. Good. And then interlace the fingers behind that right leg. Press the heel toward the sky. Keep pressing the left leg down. Walk your hand up the back of that leg. Stretch your head and shoulders toward the ankle. And then bring everything down. Just take a nice long kind of morning stretch. And then walk your hands toward the right and then your feet toward the right. So any amount, you're just in a little bit of a crescent moon shape. If you want, you can take your right hand and grab your left wrist for a little bit more of a stretch. You can even bring your left ankle over your right. Breathe into that side body. Inhale back to center. And walk those hands to the left and the feet to the left. And whatever you did on the first side, do that on the second. Okay, walk it back to the center. One more nice long stretch. And then bring your knees in towards your chest. Give them both a squeeze. Maybe rock from side to side a little bit, massaging that lower back. Maybe even do some circles with the knees. Okay, now bring those knees to a 90-degree angle. So the shins will be parallel with the mat. Knees are stacked directly over your hips, whatever that joint is. We're gonna do some dead bugs. You can also do these with your legs straight if that's more comfortable for you in any way. We're gonna inhale, reach the right arm overhead, straighten the left leg. And then exhale, bring everything back in. Inhale, right leg, left arm out. Exhale, everything in. Now, as you're doing this, if you want to modify it, make it a little bit easier, you can just bring the leg down to the mat. If you want to make it a little bit harder, you can hover that leg. It also is an option to keep that leg a little bit more bent, so you don't have to bring it all the way out. You can bring it just partially. Move with your breath, and let's just do 3 more on each side. Make up that core a little bit. Right. Once you've done the same number on each side, we'll keep those knees at the 90-degree angle, bring our arms out to a T, palms face down. Allow your knees to drop over to the right, any amount. So don't let them flop all the way. Just bring them over as much as you can while maintaining some core strength. Inhale back to center. And exhale to the left any amount. Again, this is waking up the core. Shouldn't be too strenuous. Once you've done both sides an equal number of times, allow your knees to drop over to the right and stay there. So just let them rest wherever they fall. You can readjust your hips a little bit so they're more stacked if that feels good. Maybe gaze over your opposite shoulder. Inhale your knees back to center. And then bring them back to the 90-degree angle to allow them to drop over to the other side. And again, if you want to readjust your hips a little to make that more comfortable, go ahead and do that. Gaze over the opposite shoulder. And inhale back to center. Squeeze those knees back into your chest. Head and shoulders come up. Give yourself a tight squeeze. And then let's rock forward and backward along that spine. And after maybe 5 or 6 of these, we will meet in a seat. Get a little bit comfortable. We'll be here for a minute or two. If you want to sit on a prop of some sort, a pillow might be good. Okay, we're just going to bring our hands to our knees and open up our collarbone. Maybe look up slightly. Exhale, round your back, especially that upper back. Inhale, cow pose, modified cow pose. Exhale, cat. Bring your chin toward your chest, really round that upper back. And keep working with your breath. Happy to have everyone, even the latecomers, if you want to move a little bit to make sure that your spine is a little bit warmed up, feel free to do that before you join in with what we're doing. Okay, and then we'll do just some easy neck rolls. Exhale, chin to the chest. Bring it to the right shoulder. Inhale, look up. Exhale, chin comes around and down. Inhale up. Keep working with your breath. Make sure you're keeping your sit bones nice and heavy in your seat so that you have a nice long spine as you do this. I'll go the other direction. Okay, inhale back to center, fingertips to shoulders. Do some rolls toward the back. Good, and then forward, inhaling up, exhaling down. And then go backwards, but alternate like you're doing a backstroke. Great. All right, move that prop out of the way. You will step back straight into downward facing dog. Take a few minutes in downward facing dog to do whatever you need to open up the backside of the body. So pedaling out, moving a hip toward the armpit, do whatever you need. Make sure you're breathing. And if you haven't already, find a place of stillness in your downward facing dog. Really ground all four corners of your palm into the mat, your fingertips into the mat. Press the floor away from you, but also allow your shoulders to come away from your ears. Extend your tailbone toward kind of where the ceiling and the wall meet. And allow your heels to be heavy. Just start to walk your feet forward. Take your time getting to the front of your mat into a forward fold. Uttanasana. Once you're at the front of your mat in the forward fold, bend your knees generously and allow your torso to hang from your hips. You can grab opposite elbows if you like. Nod your head yes. Shake your head no. Maybe sway from side to side a little bit. Bring your hands to your shins and inhale up halfway. Bring your collarbone, or allow your collarbone to be nice and open, shoulders away from your ears. Spreading your shoulder blades away from each other. Nice, long, straight spine. So hands are on your shins. So you're pressing your spine nice and long. Good. Exhale, fold, chin to chest, chest to thighs. And then press into your feet. Inhale, halfway. Sweep your arms out wide to engage your back. Palms come overhead. Gaze might come down to the ground to prevent any dizziness. And then exhale your hands to your sides. Good. Take your feet fairly wide, maybe not quite as wide as the mat. It depends on how open your hips are, but fairly wide. And toes will point out maybe 30 degrees, and you can adjust this depending on how the first couple of rounds of this go. So if you want, you can watch me first. We're gonna do kind of a dynamic malasana, so a deep squat, but we're going to move in and out of it. So you might not go into your fullest expression of malasana, but you're gonna go into a nice deep squat. Make sure your knees are tracking in the same direction as your toes and that they don't go in front of your toes. So sitting back, and you might not go all the way. Your hands can come down to the mat, and then inhale to come up. I don't even know how to describe this. You're gonna lift your hips and then just kind of roll up and reach all the way up. And then exhale, go into the deep squat. Inhale to kind of roll up. As you roll up, make sure you engage your belly button toward your spine. So go ahead and try that a couple of times. Coming deep into this fold and then inhaling up. You're exhaling as you go down, releasing everything down into the ground. And then the next time you go into that deep squat, we will stay there. If you have a pillow or something handy or a block, if you happen to have one, stick that under your hips so you're supported. If you don't need support, that's okay, but we want this to just be nice and relaxed. Good. Hands are coming toward heart center. Elbows can press the knees a little wider. Feel the grounding in your heels, the grounding in your sit bones. And when you're ready, you can move that prop out from under you. And we're gonna actually take a seat. Bring your, I'll mirror you maybe at this point. Well, no, I haven't been mirroring you, I won't. So bring your right knee bent with your ankle fairly close to your hip. And your left knee is gonna stay bent like you were in a seat. So I always think of this as like you're almost like in a cheerleader pose. When I was a cheerleader, we used to sit like this. It's okay if your right hip does not touch the mat. And then try to sit as upright as possible. If you need to use your hands somewhere to hold yourself up, that's okay. Think about grounding into both sit bones. Okay, now plant that left palm onto the mat and inhale, lift your hips. Lift that right hand for a side stretch. Nice, good, Mike. Press those hips a little bit more forward. And exhale everything down. All right, we'll just carefully change sides whatever way is best for you. So I'm gonna bring that right leg across first, then the left knee bends and comes to the other hip. Noticing we all have one hip that's tighter than the other. So just noticing how this side feels different. This is my tough side. Good. And then once you're set up, just allowing your hips to be heavy, but it's okay if one hip is off of the mat a little bit. Nice long spine. Check in with your shoulders, make sure they're rolled back and down. Good, and then we'll plant that right palm and we'll lift up like on the other side. So nice big stretch. On those inhales, stretching a little bit more deeply in that left hip. And inhale, release. Good. All right, we are going to do, we'll come into a table pose, but if you want, you can just take a seat first because I'm going to demonstrate this. So this is one of my favorite things to teach. It's called I call it a pigeon walk. It can be quite challenging both physically and mentally. So be patient with yourself and just think of it as a time to be a little bit creative. So we're going to start at anywhere along your mat, really. Bring your one knee in toward the center of the mat. And if you want to watch me first, I'll kind of guide you through it again. And you're just going to walk the other knee behind that knee. And then continue walking back on your mat. And then once you get to the back, you walk forward. It takes a little bit. Maybe I'm making it look easy right now because I've done it a few times, but it takes a little bit of playing around to figure out how exactly that works. So again, if you are waiting for my guidance, bring one knee into the middle of the mat and just walk the other knee behind it and keep stepping. Make sure that you aren't holding your breath. Slow, steady breath, slow, steady movements. Okay, and then the next time your left knee is in front, you're going to allow your hips to kind of be heavy and walk your hands forward. So almost like you're coming into a downward or into a child's pose, but really wonky. So your hips don't have to come all the way to the mat, just let them be heavy wherever they are, and then walk your hands toward the front. Allow your chin to relax toward your chest. Okay, now walk your hands back and you're gonna sit back between your heels. If you need to take a pillow or a blanket or a block and place it underneath your hips, you can go ahead and do that as well. Ideally, you want your heels to be equal distance from your hips, but work with whatever your body's giving you. And you can place your hands on your feet, maybe even give yourself a little foot massage, making sure that your sit bones are nice and grounded and you're lengthening through the crown of your head. Okay, and then walk your hands back forward. Inhale back into that kind of table pose. And then we'll just walk that left knee behind the right. And we'll do that whole sequence over again. So allow your hips to be heavy and walk your hands forward. Chin relaxes toward the chest. Walk your hands back And sit back on the ground or a prop. Make sure both sit bones are grounded. And again, you can give yourself that little foot massage. This is a time of small luxuries. Take anything we can get. Okay, and then just walk your hands back forward. Bring your knees back under your shoulders, and then walk them back 6 inches. Tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back. Downward facing dog. Stretch. Okay. Inhale back to a table pose and then lower all the way down to the mat. When you get to the mat, first bring your hands out in front of you. Palms are on the mat. Forehead can be on the mat, and just allow yourself to breathe into your back, into your sides. A full prostration here to open up those lungs. And bring your right arm out to about even with your jaw, out straight on the mat. And then we'll press our left palm into the mat, roll onto our side. If it feels accessible to you, I'm going to do it this way so you can see it better. You can bend your left knee and bring it behind your left leg. No, your right leg. Inhale to center. And then go toward the other side. Inhale to center. Bring both hands underneath your shoulders, and we'll do a couple of dynamic baby cobras. So inhale to lift your chest, broaden your collarbone, shoulders away from your ears. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Nice, strong upper back. Exhale, lower. Lift one more time. Press those hip bones into the mat as you lift. Exhale, lower down. Now the next time you lift, inhale, press your palms into the mat, maybe come a little bit higher. Keep those shoulders away from the ears, elbows pointing behind you. And exhale down. Okay, now we'll bring our elbows underneath our shoulders for Sphinx pose. If this is too much for your lower back, you can walk your elbows forward any amount. So it can look like this if it needs to. Toning that lower belly so you don't dump into your lower back. Relax the legs. Gaze between your hands, maybe a few inches in front of that, so you have a nice neutral neck. bend your knees. Just do some circles with those feet. Gently feeling out the lower back. Go the other direction. Good. Then just bend those knees and do some circles with the ankles. Keep pressing into your forearms, broaden your collarbone. Circles the other way with your ankles. Okay, now you can stay there to watch me demonstrate this first restorative pose. If this is like a little bit too much, you can sit up to watch. So you are going to, just making sure I have it right, you're going to take two props that are the same size, so you can make them the same size if you need to. It can be a pillow and a blanket that you fold up, or it can be two pillows if you have them handy. And you're just going to place them underneath the fronts of your shoulders, and you're going to lay flat. That's basically it. You can also put something underneath your shins if you'd like. So this is a supported Shalumbasana. So Shalumbasana is when we lift our hands and our feet, but we're going to do it supported and relaxed. So shoulders come underneath, or pillows come underneath the shoulders like this. Oh God, I thought I just spilled my tea. That was so scary. And then another pillow or blanket can come under your shins if you'd like. And you'll just place your forehead down on the mat. Just allow everything to be heavy. This very slight back bend here, and breathe. Release any tension you're holding on to. Allow your hips to press into the mat, everything to ground down. When you're ready, bring your hands under your shoulders and lift yourself up to a seat. You can take any movements that you need to. Just stretch yourself out. The next pose we're going to do is a supported child's pose. This is something that you'll just have to kind of feel out and work with what you've got. If you have your camera on or want to turn it on, and you have, questions or something doesn't quite feel right, you feel free to ask me. But essentially, you're just gonna pile up props underneath your abdomen so that you can sit in child's pose for a longer time, and it feels good. So you ideally want it to be a little higher toward the back of your setup, or toward the, like where your chest will be. So it's a little bit higher up there and a little bit lower toward your hips. If you have tighter hips, you'll probably want more props. And then you'll just take your knees wide, like fairly close up to the props, probably a little bit in front of the base. And then you'll just allow your whole body to relax. You can either allow your head to hang over, or you can bring one ear to your pillow or your blanket. And take your time getting set up. Make sure you're really comfortable. We're gonna be here for a good 5 minutes. And if you just can't get comfortable in this position, feel free to take another position that feels good to you. Allow your breathing to slow down. Release any tension that you're still holding on to, even if it's just 10%. Allow your breath to be expansive in your sides and your back. I'm going to read from the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. This is called Stems and Roots. The love we show saves the love we hide. The way a spring and sun feeds its unseen root. Even though I believe in living in the open, parts of me hide. I can't help it. But what I can help is which parts of me, the open or the hidden, run my life. What I can rely on is this inexplicable knowing that when I am in the open, life nourishes even those parts so sorely hidden. Just as green stems in spring stay connected to their darker roots, just as the roots grow when the stems do, my compassion soothes my fear where I can't see. Unknown to me, my love feeds the underside of my confusion. The light I take in keeps the roots of my soul alive. We become so preoccupied with what we are not able to address, what we are not able to mend, what we are not able to leave behind, that we forget that whatever we are in the light of day is slowly but surely healing the rest of us. Bring to mind one thing you feel incapable of solving in your personality. Surround it with your breath. Accept that it will be with you for a while. Now put it down and feel the part of you that happens without any work. Inhale strongly with this part of your being and know that its native strength is softening what you can't solve. Take a deep breath and start to walk your hands back. Sit back on your heels. Good. If you'd like, you can take a little bit of a stretch, maybe downward facing dog. And then if you'd like to, you can actually keep your props where they are. Now we'll just turn over and we'll take Supta Baddha Konasana. That's bound angle pose on your back. So I think you can see. So you'll bring your feet together, allow your knees to drop out wide, and then just lay back along your props. If you want to take this flat on your back or with something else underneath your head and shoulders, you can do that too. Then hands can either come palms up or down on at your sides, or they can come somewhere on your hips or abdomen. If this is a lot for you, you can take props and place them underneath your hips. You want your hip flexors to be nice and relaxed. If you've already done enough hip work today and your hips are kind of done, you can just take this kind of upper half of your body and you can just extend your legs out straight. That's okay too. Take whatever you need. Release tension. Check back in with the quantity and quality of your thoughts. Check back in with your breath. Check in with your body. If you're comfortable here, you can stay here. If you would like to take Shavasana for a final resting pose, you can move your props out of the way. Feel free to take some combination of these two also. If you want to just extend your legs out, but keep your head and chest on the props, you can do that. Make sure you're warm. If you need to put on socks or a sweatshirt or put on a blanket, take your time to get yourself nice and comfortable. If you're in Shavasana, feet are about mat width. Arms are at least 6 inches from your hips. Lift your head, lengthen your cervical spine, and then place your head back down. Good. Release any tension you're holding on to in your body, starting with your toes, your feet, your ankles. Release your calves, your knees, your thighs, your hamstrings. Let go of any tension you're holding on to in your hips and in your glutes. Relax the belly and allow it to rise and fall naturally with the breath. Relax the chest. Relax the lower back, middle back, and upper back. Relax the hands and wrists. Relax the forearms and upper arms. Release tension in your shoulders and your neck. Allow your brain to be cradled by your skull and your skull to be cradled by the earth. Relax your forehead, the muscles behind your eyes. Allow your lower jaw to separate from your upper jaw and your tongue to come away from the roof of your mouth. Just take the next few minutes to allow body and mind to integrate. If you find yourself getting distracted, just come back to paying attention to your breath. Doesn't matter how many times your attention comes away, it just matters that you come back to your breath. Start to deepen your inhales and lengthen your exhales. Start to bring a little bit of movement to your body, starting with fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. Take a nice long stretch, reach overhead. And then bring your knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a little hug and roll to one side. Take a couple of breaths to enjoy the peace you created with your practice. When you're ready, go ahead and press yourself up to a comfortable seat. And get comfortable. We'll be here for a few minutes. And we're going to do a breathing technique called Nadi Shodhana. It's also sometimes called alternate nostril breathing. Many of you have done this with me before. So go ahead and watch me first, because if you try to do it while I'm demonstrating, you won't be able to see me. So you'll bring your hand, your right hand. I know we're not supposed to touch our face, but I hope your hands are clean. If you're not confident in that, you can always just do this mentally and not block it off. Bring your hand, your first two fingers between your eyebrows. Your thumb will block off one nostril, and your ring finger will block off the other nostril. And you'll alternate blocking one off, inhaling, blocking the other off, exhaling, then inhaling back through that, exhaling through the other side. So we'll do this for a couple of minutes. I would recommend closing your eyes or finding a place on the floor to gaze at. And when you're ready, go ahead and inhale through the left nostril, close it off, exhale through the right nostril. Inhale right, exhale left. And continue on your own. We'll do this for about a minute. The next time you exhale through your left nostril, go ahead and just drop your hand down into your lap. Keep your eyes closed or your gaze at one place. Focus on the breath coming in and out of both nostrils. We'll imagine a blue sky. Any thoughts Our emotions come up. Imagine them as clouds coming into your gaze and then continuing on, and again, seeing it as a blue sky. We'll sit with this for a couple of minutes. And release any technique. Allow your mind to do whatever it wants to do. When you're ready, bring your hands to heart center. Bow into yourself. Call to mind your sankalpa, your intention that you said at the beginning of class. Decide whether you want to take it with you as you finish off the rest of your day. I'll end class by chanting the sound of Om one time. Feel free to join along, even though we can't hear each other, or just listen in. Inhaling deeply. Thank yourself for being here. I thank all of you for joining me. Namaste.